Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, February 24th, 2026 Matthews County School Board and Board of Supervisors Joint Budget Work Session. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.3, we'll go ahead and do the roll call of the school board first. Ms. Lau?
Here. Mrs. Hodges? Here. Ms. Gates?
Here.
Mr. Morgan?
Here.
And Dr. Gates?
Present.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Ms. Phillips? Here. Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Doss?
Here.
Mr. Bowen?
Here.
Moving on to item 2, Dr. Daniel, our superintendent, will provide a brief review of the 2026-2027 draft of the Matthews County Public Schools operating budget.
So this may be a slight repeat for those board members who attended the public hearing, but I'll go through some of the information that I covered. So we'll start with demographics a little bit. So I think I touched on this at a previous meeting coming to the supervisors, but currently Matthews County Public Schools serves about 783 students in grades pre-K 3 through 12th grade. That enrollment, that's the number of kids who are walking into our school every day. That number differs from what the ADM, or average daily membership, is. Our ADM for last year we ended the year at 743.45 students. So that's the final number that state funding for basic aid goes through for last year. Okay, this year we're running probably 738-ish right now. So the difference between ADM and enrollment has to do with grade level. We don't get SOQ funding for preschool students. So preschool students don't count towards ADM. Students who are in some type of regional program, whether that's Chesapeake Bay Governor's School, regional CTE programs, regional alternative schools, regional special education programs, those students are fractionally reduced towards our ADM. So that's why that ADM number is smaller than our overall enrollment. We're still serving those kids, but sometimes some of those kids may be half days or whatever, or they're just not part of funding. Another caveat that I didn't mention before is if we have a student who enrolls in kindergarten a couple days early, meaning they haven't quite turned 5, they're 4 and 360 days, and their parents want them to enroll early, we don't get SOQ funding for that child either, even though they're in kindergarten. So that's a kind of a weird little sort of caveat to the rules. So all those things get factored out and calculated. We have currently 157 full-time and 26 part-time employees. 21% of our students qualify for special education. That's a high number. So we have a population, those 21% of our students require additional services, additional supports, accommodations, and the needs vary based on the student, but we may have to hire additional staff members to work one-on-one with some of our special needs students, or they may need special transportation services. An additional 8% of students qualify for a 504 plan. That is, I guess in layman's terms, similar to an IEP, but often requires additional supports and accommodations for students. 43% of our students are direct certified for services. So direct certified being receiving some sort of government financial assistance. TANF, SNAP, some of those things. So that reporting then comes into the school division, and those students under different circumstances would be automatically qualified for free lunch. Matthews participates in CEP, the Community Eligibility Provision. So all of our students are free breakfast and free lunch, and that's based on a formula the federal government uses in part to our direct certified numbers. And it came up earlier, CEP is a 3-year cycle, so we're coming to the end of year 3, so we'll reevaluate the financial benefits of remaining in CEP. And we'll see, because there's different reimbursement rates for direct certified students versus non-direct certified students, et cetera, et cetera. 3% of our students are English language learners, meaning that they're based on an assessment provision that when they're coming in, they need additional English language support. And that timeline to get them proficient and taking our state assessments is crazy fast. And that's changed over the years. It used to be at 3-4 years. Now it's measured in months. That we have to get students, like if you come here like in a tested grade, you have a matter of months. I think it's 12 to 16 months. But it's a rapid turnaround to have those students, in theory, proficient to take a state assessment in a different language. Just sort of a frame of reference too. Last year, our food service department served 193,245 meals to kids, with a fairly similar enrollment last year. Okay, so a little bit, and I won't try not to belabor a bunch on the first draft highlights. So what we talked about in February was a first draft. It was kind of everybody talking about what we need. This is kind of the wish list. There was somewhat of what we thought may be a reasonable wish list, but what some of the holding points for that first draft was based on an ADM of 725 students. So the first question is, well, if you think your ADM is around 740, why are you basing your budget on 725? Historically, when we go back and look over the last 15 or so years, we've lost about 20 to 25 students annually. And even when I go back the last 3 to 4 years, we've had significant enrollment cliffs that have occurred. So I think I shared with you all one of the slides when I presented most recently at the Board of Supervisors. It had that year's projected ADM and then that year's actual ADM. And so you saw some years, I think one year was like 80 students. That's a massive revenue hit for us. So what we were trying to do both this year and for next year is project a little bit lower, anticipating if we are going to continue to decline in enrollment, we're not going to have a massive revenue cliff in state funding. So I think our projection for this year of 725 is going to hold pretty well. So we're, again, thinking 725 again for next year seems to be a pretty reasonable projection. The first draft included a 2% plus a step. So within our salary scale, so each year of service, each step is 1%, and then it's increasing each one of those steps up 2%. So that would equate to about a 3% pay increase for all staff except for teacher assistants. On that scale, we're proposing a 6% increase for teacher assistants. In terms of our employee groups, they are probably the most is put upon them, and they are the least compensated, the lowest compensated employee groups. They're probably right at minimum wage. So trying to be able, and we have a lot of turnover historically within our teacher assistants, so attempting to compensate better for better retention, better services for our students. Also our TAs, a big chunk of what they do is work with our special needs students. Those students with IEPs and 504s is a lot of what our teacher assistants do. So consistency with that employee group is going to make our division better. The first draft included an overall 10%. We were budgeting for an overall 10% increase for our health insurance. This plan had between 5 and 15% of that new cost passed on to employees. So we offer an Anthem plan and a Centera plan. So there are two different Anthem versions, and then there is one Centera version. So the rates for Anthem would be consistent. So we would apply 1% for those who subscribe to Anthem, a different percentage for those who subscribe to the Centera plan. We should get those health insurance projections back. I think we've got a meeting in 2 weeks, March 9th. So we meet with our, the insurance broker to get an idea of what that is. I think our Centera plan is going to be well above that 10% increase. Last year, for example, the Centera plan, I think, went up little over 22%. I think we're in that ballpark again this year for that plan. Right. So we'll know that. We'll know that soon. The school resource officer grant match was included in that first draft. It also included athletic trainer position. It replaces a CTE position who is kind of, that person is moving into a different role, but we wanted to then backfill that CTE position instead of absorbing that position. The role that teacher is moving into, that person retired. And so we're not this isn't adding a CTE position to the budget. It's making sure that we fill it. And this assumes a state funding kind of ratio to local funding, 33% to local funding of 66%. We were assuming that in operating funds, and having more conversation with the county and county representatives, they're looking at the overall funding picture. All right, so second draft. So I'll drop down to item number 6. So the second draft is based on level funding from the county. So that's that at a $9.1 million funding level. Draft 1 was about a 9.4 funding amount from the county. So this second draft is based on 9.1, which is what was allocated to the school division for this current school year. So in order to get from the 9.4 down to the 9.1, it's still based on 725 ADM. The increase goes down basically from 3% down to 2%. This still keeps the 6% for teacher assistants. It still assumes the same health insurance piece. It removes, it keeps the school resource officer grant match kind of on our budget, which we can talk about the rationale for doing that or not doing that. But it does remove an athletic trainer position, which was a new position in the first draft. It removes that athletic trainer position from the budget, and again, includes level funding from the county. So I'll let Ms. Hunley talk a little bit about four funds and kind of walking through the numbers and looking at some of the historical pieces. Free to ask questions, I think, as they arise. There are a bunch of slides in the presentation. I don't plan on going through all of those slides. They're there if I need to reference something, or if there is a specific question, then I can easily go to that slide, pull it up, answer the question, instead of me having to share with Mr. Anthony to then post it up and do all the things. So.
Okay. Sorry, I'm losing my voice, but I'll try my best. The budget is comprised of four funds. Fund 1 is operating, Fund 2 is our food service, Fund 3 is textbook, and Fund 4 is Matthews Community. This slide is a breakdown of the revenue for the total budget, and it's broken down by the funds. So as you see, for operating funds, which also includes Thrifty Spot, which we have dissolved in fiscal year 26. So as far as our operating fund has went down $320,628.22 compared to fiscal year 26 to 27. And down for food service, it's up for a textbook fund, and the community fund is level. And overall, the total budget was decreased by $296,413.35.
Question for you. The operating fund, like you said you're showing a $320,000 reduction. What made up that 320?
All right, I will bring, this is the next slide. It's gonna come up
Oh, the
eventually.
next one? Okay.
Yeah, in the couple, I'm gonna break it down by fund. So this slide right here is, the revenue. Sorry. This is just the revenue as far as for, the breakdown for different types of funds. So you have your local, which is the county, funding, as you can see for the different years from fiscal year '25 is the actual fiscal year '26 budgeted and fiscal year '27 proposed. It's a percentage based on, for each different level of funding for, compared to the total budget for each year for this slide. Now, this is where we break it down as far as for each fund. So for operating fund, as far as for the revenue side, you have your local, which increased by $53,668, and this is all revenue. Your state funding decreased by $364,531.82. Federal funding decreased by $9,764.40. As you see, the local operating is flat, and overall is a difference of $320,628.22.
So I have another question for you. If you want me to wait to the end, or I can ask you when they pop into my head.
It's fine.
Okay. So you have here for federal funding 596,465, and I'd have to go back and look, but I thought on a presentation that either Dr. Dan, you all gave.
Yes, I can explain that. When I was the one before,
The 721?
what happened was I went back and looked at what was actually coded to federal funding, which was E-rate and Medicaid reimbursements, and they are actually other local instead of federal, so that's why the other local increased this to 53,000 and the federal reduced. I just moved the funding.
Okay. Thank you.
And as far as the expenditures, the breakdown for instruction, overall difference of 3,575.72, and going down, as you see, administration, attendance, health went up 51 approximately, pupil transportation went up 27 approximately, operation and maintenance went up 24 approximately, the transfers, which includes textbooks and a transfer to food service, went up 60,000, and technology reduced by approximately 81,000, and that's the difference of the $320,628.22.
So what made up the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, you're probably gonna ask the same question.
What made up the instruction reduction?
That was a combination of stuff. It's hard to, it's like we took out the athletic trainer, we reduced, there's the 2 positions that were reduced from St. Clair Walker, that was out of there. There were also, 2 positions from.
Yeah, so closing the middle school, so if you got some staffing positions from closing the middle school, I think removing the athletic trainer
Yeah,
is another position.
and then it was
Well, this
just based,
Real quick, just to get my brain straight. You're doing this on budget proposal 1, right, because it's flat funding. What is
Wait.
that 2?
So this is the second proposal.
The
So,
second
yeah,
one.
I think we're assuming that we're not getting 9.4.
yeah.
So, like, just based on conversations, and I think that money isn't there. So I'm not casting blame or anything along those lines. So this is then,
This is 2, okay.
this is for us to looking at 9.1 funding with level funding and what that looks like in reference to previous years, current, this year, and then FY '25. And then we can talk, there's another slide kind of at the end, okay, this is then the things we start thinking of or having to look at, that comes next.
Yeah, and it was just multiple lines that we went in and just reduced just based on, looking at what was budgeted and what was actual.
5,000 here, 10,000
Just to
there.
get down, it was like a nickel and dime kind of thing, to get us down to the 9.1, pretty much.
On the admin, attendance, health services, that looks like it's up about 4 to 5%.
what's that? Because didn't you, on admin, didn't you lose one admin person at least?
That admin person was actually in instruction, because admin, as far as for the schools, is in instruction.
Oh, so, okay, so what's in that number?
That is back, that's basically is my salary and benefits, and also, a combination of things that went up as far as for purchase services.
The pupil transportation, you know, here we are trying, and I know the number of roads probably are still the same, but that is a tough one when I look at how many kids are not riding the buses.
I think part of why they're not riding the buses is the length of the bus ride itself. So as we were going through this budget process, I reached out to Mr. Royals to say, okay, we have 15 regular bus routes. What would it look like to go to 14 or to 13? Should we have a retirement, or should I need to just reduce a route? My understanding is there are no overlaps in our bus routes. So it's almost, if you think of almost like a spider web or kind of a concentric circle, like everything is just going out from one hub. So because of the geography, you're basically going down a neck and then coming back out, and going down, U-turn, and coming back out. Our longest bus route is about an hour and a half, bus ride rather. So the first person on, then, you know, and then dropping off at the school, or vice versa. So a lot of our families, instead of that, are gonna figure out a way to carpool or drop their kids off in the mornings and things along. So that then relates to, you know, buses are gonna look somewhat emptier.
Well, that's not a full bus to be an hour and a half?
No, I mean, because just the population density isn't there. So you're driving from stop to stop to stop, and you're covering miles. You're not able to pick up 40 kids within, 2 or 3 miles. You're driving miles and miles to pick up kids.
Is that one way, 1.5 hours, or is that there? Total?
So it's the first kid who, so let's say you get picked up in the morning, like you're the first kid who gets picked up first thing in the morning. From that pickup until you get dropped off at school. The longest one is an hour and a half.
I guess I'm just surprised, because I don't know how many children are on the bus, if it's 10.
I don't know that I
15.
have a good grasp of the actual daily bus riders.
That's what I'm saying, to be an hour and a half, I guess they're stopping and then they go into the next one and stop, I just didn't.
Or you gotta
wait
turn
for them to
around, you
go.
get to the end of the neck or whatever, you've gotta turn around, come back out, and
Can I offer one little thing here?
Is it unreasonable to ask if we could have like centralized pickup locations? If kids could make it a half a mile from their house?
I mean, in reality, we're not legally bound to offer transportation.
Yeah?
But the hurdle, you're probably gonna get a higher compliance in the morning, but when you're dropping off at 3 in the afternoon, needing somebody there, especially for younger students, to meet at each stop. So we typically, for elementary students or younger students, won't let them off the bus unless there's an adult there.
Sure.
So then you're kind of having these congregation points. I think, as I'm thinking through your question, having to have enough, you almost need like a park and ride.
Yeah.
So you thinking through where those stops would be to pick up, and how many of those spots across the county are available. I don't know.
Is that like the primary demographic, like grade 5 and below for kids that are riding the bus, or?
No, we have high school students still riding the bus. There was a time where you couldn't wait to get your license and you drive yourself to school and get off the bus as quickly as you can. That's not really the thing anymore.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering if there was a more centralized pickup. It seems to me that the challenge might be if the parent doesn't get them there, then that will impact the students coming to school, which is another measurement that the federal government has as far as absenteeism.
Sure.
So trying to balance all of those pieces out is a huge challenge.
Mr. Morgan?
Couple of you, Board of Supervisors members, were questioning the number of students on each bus. And I know it's odd, if you were to stand at at any of the schools and watch them load and unload, you would see some buses that are almost full and others that have very few children, very few students. I substituted a little bit when I was teaching. I was kind of a last resort. They don't like for teachers to drive buses, but when Clyde came around and said, I either gotta have somebody, either a teacher or I gotta leave the bus sitting where it is, then they let me drive. But at any rate, the longest, the fullest, if that's a word, bus that I can recall was one that goes up from, in the afternoon, goes up from the schools up 198, left on Route 3, Windsor Road, and its first stop was right there at the beginning of Windsor Road. Multiple stops on that road, 3 to 14, take a left, couple of stops right there before the North River, North End Bridge, and then there was one stop at the end of Booker's Lane, and I was empty. So that was a very, very short run, and probably one of the highest number of students on any buses. There's another run that covers all the way from Moon, down in Fitchett's Wharf, all the way into the Glebe. And that's a long run, and the bus is not full. So I'll have to give Mr. Royals credit. He's done, I think, an incredible job with trying to split these runs up so that they are, well, it probably maybe could be more efficient, but in recent years, we've had 1 or 2 drivers retire, and they've not been replaced, if I recall.
Yeah, so we've been on 15 routes since I've been here, but I think the previous 2 years went from 17 to 16 and then 15
Yeah,
for the last
so
little bit.
it's a tough, Matthews County, running buses in Matthews is tough. Mr. Walsh, you mentioned possibility of having a central pickup. I remember way back when I was in high school, it was in the 70s, and we had the gas shortage, and buses could not stop. I think this was state law, I believe, that school buses could not stop closer than quarter mile, maybe, apart. So if you had 3 houses in a row, all the kids had to meet at one driveway.
Right.
I don't know the answer. I don't have the answer for you. If you started doing that again, I think parents would just say, well, my kid's not gonna ride the bus.
And there's some safety concerns about, when you get off at that stop, how far walking along the side of the road, and so.
Yep.
Dr. Daniel, you had mentioned one time before, 15 buses in Matthews, but your experience at West Point, what was that, 5 or 6?
Yeah, so when I was I think we had 5 buses in West Point. Again, you're looking at 6 square miles roughly for the town of West Point. So, their transportation budget, I think, is a third of what ours is. But you're covering a lot less square miles, fewer buses, fewer drivers. And because of that small size, they also subbed out all of the bus maintenance to a local business. And I think their longest route was
When we're done with
20 minutes or
transportation, I have a
25
comment about
minutes.
technology.
It would seem to me that, I don't think it can happen this year, but there've got to be other small rural school divisions that have a similar problem than we do. That's a, pretty heavy amount of money to spend for 740 kids. And I wonder how other divisions have tackled it, or if they have done a better
Yeah, we
job.
can do, I've asked around a little bit to try to get, I ask about that and then food service and comparing, how do we, what are we doing different than other localities, or what's the other places' kind of secret sauce? So we can go back out and continue to go back out and look for other ideas or other solutions. I know transportation, we use a software system to program routes and try to find efficiencies. So.
I don't think Matthews fits into that, because we all know we have these necks that we have to go down and come back. It's just, if you could contract someone to do smaller runs or whatever.
I think a lot of times in northern states, like the school divisions contract out busing. kind of, and so that's a whole different entity. I think the city of Hampton has a hybrid where they have city transportation and school transportation for students. And
We'd probably be better off paying parents to bring their kids to school.
Well, if
I mean,
someone
you can look
mentioned,
at, if you're within so many square miles, we don't provide transportation too. I mean, again, there's not, but again, it's also, well, if I'm gonna have to drive my kid, I might as well, do I wanna drive them here, or do I wanna drive them someplace else too? So it's thinking about services provided. There was,
as someone mentioned, we're not legally bound to provide buses, but I fear that if we don't provide transportation, kids aren't gonna come to school.
Are there any other localities that stop busing? Do we have any hard data? Does that happen?
I'm not aware of any.
No, I'm not
provision in
aware of
Virginia
any
that does
data,
this.
I guess that's just
I'm just
an
wondering. Yeah, I'm just
opinion.
wondering.
I mean, I think other states will say, if you're within, or other, independent school divisions in other states will say, we don't provide transportation if you're within 2 miles of whatever school or something along those lines. And kids are walking to school and stuff along those lines, so.
Ms. Bohannon Stewart?
I have a comment about technology we've said all we need to say about transportation.
Could I say one more thing?
Yeah, you can go ahead, because, continue that, because I want to do,
I
comment
just
about technology.
divided 1.479898 by 800. That's $1,849.94 per student we spend on transportation. That's just a comment.
Well, I mean,
I
the budget
understand.
also includes
You've
all
gotta
the
have-
athletic trips and
Right,
all field
athletic
trips and
yeah.
all that
My
stuff.
dad
It's-
used to do that
Right.
when he was a
Yep.
school bus driver for the county, but that's a lot of money. Yeah,
So,
paying people to get their kids here is not bad.
It is, and I guess that,
okay, yeah. So, I want to give us something to think about a little bit more with Chromebooks. And I have lots of experience teaching 8th graders. 5 of those years I was dealing with the Chromebooks, sometimes in the classroom, sometimes personally issued to students. And it's my understanding now that since 8th grade has moved to the high school, that now those 8th graders are personally issued Chromebooks, but yet they're still middle school age. So, and Chromebooks can be great, and we need them, and they can be helpful and enhance education when they're used appropriately, but it really depends on the age, and both school districts where I've worked, I've been told middle school age, when you let them take them home, middle school age students are particularly hard on the Chromebooks with replacement rates or forgetting them. And it's been my experience in the classroom. It was better for me when I, as the teacher, had them on the cart. Okay, we're going to use Chromebooks. You guys go get them, and we're using them for this purpose. When they come in with them, they view them as theirs, and it's like a distraction device. And I'm thinking that most likely more of them get broken and have to be repaired and cost us more money when more kids take them home. And I also think it can be a distraction device. It was actually one of the top reasons that I quit being a public school teacher was Chromebooks. They were personally issued to middle school students in New Kent, and instead of having the textbooks, and it was a constant battle. Even when you have the software, you can't block all the games, and it was a constant battle with that. I had problems with them cheating and they knew how to use the software Schoology better than I did, and I had to learn how to prevent the cheating. And because when they walk out of the room with the Chromebook, oh, well, I'm just not going to submit that test, and I'll submit it later when it just gives you so much more to manage as a teacher. And if we could save a little bit of money and better use the Chromebooks, particularly for the younger grade levels, like 8th grade. It's my understanding 7th grade and below, they are not personally issued to students. Okay, but if I had trouble with 8th graders with Chromebooks personally issued, I kind of questioned, is it a good idea to issue them to 9th graders or 10th graders? At some point, it probably is a good idea because they probably need to be typing papers in 11th and 12th grade. And I'd love to hear from teachers on this.
Yeah, I'd say I haven't heard concern from high school teachers about the Chromebook deployment philosophy right now at the high school. We can continue to touch base with high school teachers on their experience. And then I just wrote a note to check with Mr. Anthony to look at repair costs recently to see where we are, just data on damages and things along those lines.
Okay.
I just went to ChatGPT about the school bus issue, to see if there are any in Virginia that, public schools in Virginia that do not provide transportation, and there are none. And to your point, you addressed, Dr. Daniel, a lot of the unique situations. It did say that Charlottesville area, that apparently, that if that you can't find bus drivers, or the buses are filled, then they don't serve the remaining students. That's kind of a curious thing. But to your point, there are no public school divisions in Virginia that do not provide public transportation.
Speaking of transportation, this is a little bit off. On the CIP, is there 2 buses on just one?
I think we're down to one.
One, okay. Just checking.
I'd like to have some more discussion on the ADM. Then pull up your second slide.
Go back.
Okay. My understanding is the 745 ADM is at the end of your school year, the figure that you're using, not the beginning of the school year.
Correct. So the way, and you may help me out on this. So with the fiscal year starting in July, the state funds a school division based on the state's projection for ADM. When we submit numbers at September, the end of September, our ADM at that time is provided to the state. The state adjusts funding up or down from their projection to that September 30 projection. At the end of March, March 30, there is a second ADM data push we've got to do to the state. And again, funding is adjusted up or down for the remainder of that year based on that ADM. So what we are projecting in this is we're trying to see into March 30 of 27 for what our enrollment, our ADM, excuse me, will be at that time.
Okay.
And the state adjusts the funding for the whole year, so it's not just kind of in 6-month chunks. So if we are way up at our March 30 count, we kind of get made to the good for the lost money in the earlier part of the year. And likewise, if we go down, we're cut back even more for the previous parts of the year, if that makes sense.
So if I understand your projection of 725, you said historically, you've lost 20 to 25 students annually. Looking at your enrollment in the past, this is a long question. Can you identify what grades those students have come out of? And
Sorry, go ahead and finish.
And looking at this year, is the reduction to 725, is that just based on the 20 to 25 historically over the last 10 years? Or are you looking at individual grades and thinking, we're gonna lose here and here? Because the preschool, I think you had, what, 20 more students this year?
In kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Now, is that included in the ADM, your kindergarten?
Kindergarten is included in ADM. So so to answer your question, it's kind of yes and no. So part of the projection is looking at the number of seniors who are graduating and some historic data related to incoming kindergarten students. So if you notice on here, this year we have 70 seniors, but we have 63 kindergartners. And again, this kindergarten group, again, is about 20 students more than what we've had. We've had a steady decline over the last 3 or 4 years within kindergarten. So this, so we had a nice return of kindergarten students. We won't know if this is a trend really until probably the 3rd week of August, and everybody has enrolled their kindergartners, because it's really, without a bunch of a wide array of preschools within the community, it's hard for us to capture incoming kindergarten numbers. So that's part of that balance. So we look then at our upper grades. We tend to get some Ware Academy kids who come back in high school, so there's usually a little bump in 9th grade because of some changes in the Virginia High School League eligibility. That bump may start in 8th grade, because now for baseball, like VHSL, it used to be where you start 9th grade determines your eligibility. Now it's where you start 8th grade. So I'm sorry, I may have said where you started, it used to be where you started 9th grade. Now it will be where you start 8th grade. And residency and all that kind of stuff. So that's gonna change some dynamics a little bit. So there's usually a little bit of a bump when you hit the high school. But in terms of like attrition, there historically was a little bit of attrition with families leaving in 4th grade, at the end of 4th grade, and trying to avoid sort of the awkward middle school years and then coming back. Haven't seen that as much recently. That's also bled to a little bit of our move in 5th grade over to the elementary school, and thinking about, our grade configuration and school culture and things along those lines.
So if your ADM ended up 10 students higher, what additional income would that be?
Is that for the state side? Because if it's for, like, say, for fiscal year '26, if it came in at let's say 735, it's an additional 2171.84 per student. I mean, it's very, as far as for SOQ, because it's based on your, the state share for SOQ.
Is that
$2,171.84.
Once you slice it.
Once you
through the
slice it in half,
composite.
every student is 5,302. I'm sorry, every student is, sorry, my eyes are not telling me.
You in the count tool.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Trying to
pull it up.
adjust the
Yeah, I'm trying to adjust it.
I believe in one of your slides during your meeting, now you have it here, but as I recall, 81% of your budget is personnel and benefits, salaries and benefits.
Yes.
How many SOQ positions do you have? For some reason, I'm thinking 86.
We're down because of declining enrollment. I think we're in the 60s now.
60.
62.
62 points.
62. And again, we have 157 full-time employees.
The number that you're just asking is how much money do we receive from the state per student, is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I'm gonna have to get that, sorry.
But Suddenly's working through the calc tool
I thought it was in
to,
the 5,000 to 6,000 range.
that's typically what I've said, is like, hey, we get about $5,000 per kid, $5,000 to $6,000 per kid. But I think that's,
I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong. It wasn't already calculated. I have to calculate it myself.
it's not as simple as,
So if you had 10 extra kids, you'd have $60,000, hopefully.
the other thing that as we add students for ADM, within the next biennium, our part of the reason our local composite index has continued to increase is because our enrollment has continued to decrease. And so that the smaller number of students coupled with property values the same or higher, then that formula then spits out a higher ability to pay for schools within your locality.
It's a double whammy.
So it's actually $2,962.98. That's the state share,
3,000?
So about 3,000.
about 3,000 a student for state share.
3,000 for 10.
Along the same lines, how many tuition-paying students do we have that have added?
That have added,
That we, you know,
That we have,
not our
like, tuition-
Not our teacher students, but
Right.
ones that say, I want my child to come to Matthews, and they're paying us for that.
it looks like 10. So we have 10 non-teacher kids
Okay.
tuition students. Yeah, I didn't think it was a ton.
So, I don't want to interrupt anybody, I just got several questions. How much is do you know what your per meal cost is? How much it costs per meal?
I don't have that right now. I mean, I can look it up, but,
I think it
just
depends,
the-
you mean reimbursements
As far as
or
what are we
what it
talking
costs us
No,
to
what's
make a
it- What's
meal?
it cost you to make, two questions, how
I think
many
it depends
kitchen
on the
staff
meal.
do you have for all three schools total? How many employees in the kitchen?
As far as just for the kitchen.
Full-time and part-time?
Full-time and part-time right now is,
I'm sorry,
Full-time and part-time?
yes.
right now it's 10,
So if that covers all three schools?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, if you could get the meal cost, the per meal cost?
I think it's
I mean,
gonna
it's gonna-
vary meal to meal. I don't think it's a
It's not a
set.
set price. I mean, I guess my question is, what is it for? I mean,
So my thought process is when, we made, at the facility I was at, we made a ton of meals. And we went from staff that prepared the meals to a company that came in and did the meals. And we cut our cost from $4 or something, and your cost for you guys, I think is like $5.13 per meal. We average everything into it. With how many meals that you made and what you have budgeted, estimated in your budget's $5.13 per meal. We did a contract and got our meals for 81 cents. 81 cents a meal that met the nutritional values for the health department. Now, that did not include 2 of the 6 positions that we had because we kept those under BRS. So we did have to pay for those. So that's my question. I'm trying to see the difference between what your food costs are versus what your staffing costs are.
I mean, I can try to figure that out, but as far as going contracted out, I mean, there's only a certain amount. I think the state has a list of people that you can contract with for food service. So as far as if we were to contract that out, it would be at whatever the state contract would be.
Okay, just a thought.
Okay.
Just a thought. So you had
Mr. Doss, could you just put your microphone a little bit closer? I can
That's
barely
okay,
hear you.
I
Thank you.
apologize, I apologize. When you merge the schools to 2 schools, will you lose one, because right now you have elementary school, middle school, and high school. So will you be going to just 2 kitchen staffs? High school and the other school being here?
So the kitchen staffs already operate kind of as 2 kitchen staffs. What we've talked about with Ms. Lindberg is to go down to 2 serving lines. So in a sense, so on this campus, it's the same kitchen, but they sort of branch off and occupy or kind of fill a middle school serving line and then an elementary serving line. So we've talked with Ms. Bray and Ms. Lindberg on developing a bell schedule, a lunch schedule that will allow us to just have to staff 1 serving line on this campus. And that may help us reduce personnel costs because we don't have 2 people serving spaghetti at the same time,
I understand.
that kind of stuff. So yeah, so we're looking at that way to reduce personnel costs.
Okay, thank you. What is what's your estimated total cost for your new proposed increase in the raise? So you have a 1 plus a step and then 6 plus a step. What's the estimated cost for both those?
So the overall salary increase between the two?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I haven't looked at all of the slides yet, so.
On the old one, it was there. You have it in your old one.
I think a 1%, I think on that one, I think I gave you a 1, a 2, and a 3, kind of overall percentage.
Yeah, that was,
135.
As kind of like a benchmark, 1 through 5.
that was on the version 1.
And so that's just kind of, that was an attempt to give you, that question typically comes up, well, what does a 1% look like and what is a 3? And to kind of have a benchmark for what that looks like. Differentiating with a 6 for this group and then a 2 or a 3 for the other groups.
And
We may have to get back to you on that one.
along that line, and you may know this, was talking about the pay raises. So your teacher assistants, the
Mhm.
6%. So what if it's like 4% versus 6%? What kind of savings is that?
I think we'd have to kind of run those numbers and look at the individual,
Big number.
kind of
How
that
many
pay
teacher
group.
assistants are there?
24?
That 6% increase for teacher assistants, I was really happy to see that. I think I went through 2 years worth of looking at resignations that was publicly available and made a spreadsheet and put down all the names. And then I was like, oh, these people just started 6 months ago, or these people just started 3 months ago, and I think these were teacher assistants. And so when I did that, because I felt like we had a problem with that, and I wanted to quantify like how big that problem was. And I know paying our teachers a good wage, a competitive wage is important, but another piece for teachers, which was another reason that caused me to leave, was not having appropriate supports. And a great teacher assistant that stays, and you don't have to, oh, I get a new one, I got to train this one for the first few months again. I mean, I was so fortunate when I was here. One of the great things about, I had a great teacher assistant. We worked together for years, and she was awesome. She was so valuable to me as a teacher, and we didn't even have to talk. She knew what I was thinking. I mean, and we were a great team because of that. But, teachers need to feel supported, and I think having teacher assistants that are willing to stay, is a really important piece.
I don't disagree with you. I really don't. I was just,
And we have some of the worst, I think our pay is very, very low for teacher assistants compared to neighboring districts.
I'm just looking.
Would you derive any cost savings if instead of doing a percentage increase in a salary, consider either like a retention bonus, a sign-on bonus? Are you gonna see any cost savings in doing it that way?
I think we're gonna go round and round about salaries here. To me, that's a day-to-day operations as far as how much salary we decide to give to our staff. And I understand that you guys want that information, and I can give it to you. But, the state for fiscal year '26 is in there. A caboose budget is a retention or a bonus that's, I think is $1,500, but it's a match to that. Everything costs. So, either it's going to be a raise or it's going to be a bonus, and most people would prefer the raise because, that helps their retirement instead of just a bonus. And just the whole state is going to be given some type of bonus or some type of retention bonus anyway. So it's not going to benefit us by giving a bonus
Well, the reason I
in
bring
lieu of
that
a
up
salary.
is you said TAs is one of the areas that you have a hard time retaining people. So is it really a matter of what they're getting paid? I don't know.
It's part of it. The job itself is difficult and taxing.
Sure.
You're working typically with our neediest students. We're working on the training piece for our TAs to give them a little more training before throwing them into the classroom or into the setting to improve that. But it's,
My
so,
mother did
you're
that
basically
job.
doing a minimum wage. We're paying them minimum wage with better benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would also ask is, or say is that bonus, you're taxed at a higher rate too. It's a different tax. But also, that retirement, you know, they get probably, and your mom could probably testify to this, her retirement probably not where it probably should be because of her pay. And I think that is like a double whammy to these individuals who are so faithful and working with some of the most challenging situations. I know we have to do what we have to do financially, but I would hate to take that away from that away in addition to a low-paying job.
On your slide about the budget highlights where you're talking about,
You might need a microphone.
Yes, she does.
on the page where you're talking about the budget highlights on the second draft, and you're talking about the teacher assistant pays, it says 6% plus a step, so that's actually 7%, right?
Okay.
Is that correct?
If, I think we've been talking 6, so I'll go back and double check if that's a typo on my end, or if we're talking about 6% or 7, so thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so Ms. Hunley's telling me that's my fault, not her fault. So that's a typo on my part, so I'll make that correction.
Ms. Hunley,
So it's 5 plus 1? 5 plus 1, you said?
It'll be 5 plus 1, yes.
Thank you.
5 plus, if you want to just send me that
That
total
co-
estimated cost, I would appreciate
I
that.
can do that for you.
Okay, so I've only got a couple more, and then I'll let everybody else go. So, let's see, I've got that, raised total. So what's the average student ratio of our closed school divisions?
Of other school divisions?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
So,
Like, I'm not sure what they're, and again, I would, some of that stuff is available on the school quality profiles. And so you can go on the state and look at their student-teacher ratio. And so kind of like ADM and enrollment, you think they're kind of the same thing, but they're not. So class size is different than student-teacher ratio, because student-teacher ratio is going to bring in some other adults that are within the school itself. So some of your elective teachers would be factored into that student-teacher ratio, whereas class size is looking at just a specific, so what I pulled up for reference point is class size ratio, so that's looking at, say, in first grade, this is the number of kids in each one of those kind of homeroom first grade classes. The student-teacher ratio is going to be different from that 45 divided by 2, because I'm factoring in the PE teacher, the music teacher, the art teacher, the specialist, the whomever, the whatever, to whatever. I think most of the places in our area are probably in the 10 to 12 to 1 kind of student-teacher ratio.
and you're close, you're probably right on it. I checked just for West Point, because they had it on their webpage, and they're 13 to 1. So the reason I ask is when I look at the number of students that you estimate at 725, and if I just take the SOQ positions, you're at 11.69 to each student. If I take the full-time employees, 157, you're down to 4.6, and if I add
Yeah.
all 183 into it, you're down to 3.1. So
But I think you're bringing in other employee groups that wouldn't be in that West Point or that school quality profile calculation.
Transportation.
So that student-teacher ratio isn't going to bring in, say, cafeteria folks or bus driver folks.
So just so I understand it right, because I don't want to misinterpret it.
Right.
So the 13 to 1 that West Point is showing does not include all of those that you're talking about?
Correct. It's
Okay.
only, there's a specific employee groups that the state recognizes for that employee, for that calculation. So I don't think it includes assistant principals, or counselors. But I think it does include licensed teachers. I'd have to go back and check to see about like a reading specialist or a math. So it's a very specific number of people in these positions versus in your building and students in your building.
And I would understand that as far as the education side goes of it. The reason I'm looking at it this way is the cost side of it, because everything, the whole cost, you basically, how many students you
Right,
have,
but I
how many
want to
staff you
compare
have.
apples to apples.
Right.
And so I don't want to, I don't want you factoring in every one of our employees and comparing that number to another division
Makes
that's only
sense.
using a segment of their employees per student.
Okay.
I think when we go down that comparison process, let's face it, we have a disadvantage of the economies of scale.
I think so too.
And even using percentages, when people look at percentages, it's like, oh, we doubled something, and you're like, oh yeah, you went from 1 to 2, big deal. So those are the things, when you're talking small numbers in a shrinking school environment, doing per head, per this, you gotta be careful.
Well, and I think too, like, student needs are gonna drive some of that,
Yeah.
some of that teacher ratio, the number of TAs, and so, if we have, again, that's part of the reason I brought up the whatever, 41% of our students, having an IEP, because that's gonna dictate the number of special education teachers that I'm federally required to have. That IEP drives the number of minutes that student has to have interaction with that special education teacher or TA. So that's gonna drive the number of TAs then that I also have to have. How we, on the day-to-day basis, how do we deploy those special education teachers to best benefit kids? So we try to target a sped teacher for English and math. So that's changing the master schedule. So part of that drives staffing. We have IEPs where students are gonna need speech therapy or occupational therapy, so we have to contract some of those services out to come in and provide those very specific therapies for kids, and so it just runs the gamut. And so if another school division doesn't have that number of special education students, they're not gonna have those same staffing needs and et cetera. I mean,
Just two
so
more
some of it's
questions.
numbers, some of it's just the story behind the numbers too.
Could we let Ms. Diggs you have a comment on this subject?
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take all the time.
Mr. Johnson.
Just one comment. I was in the elementary school last Friday morning and spoke to a teacher there. Oh, sorry.
You may not make it, you may have to go.
We have friends at home.
No worries. Can you hear me now? Okay. Last Friday, I was over at the elementary school and I spoke with a teacher there and asked her how things were going. And she said, Mary Catherine, this is the lowest group I have ever had. She said the parents are not reading. She asked the question, parents are not reading to them at home, et cetera, et cetera. And there was an assistant in the room at the time. And she said, I am trying everything and I don't know what to do next. Just one comment. Sad.
That's very sad.
It is.
So my last two questions is based off of your cow sheet, what is your estimated utilities from the state for FY '27?
As far as
The utilities revenue, I'm sorry, the revenue that the state sends you? Because I know they send you the utilities and then they send you the other operations and maintenance, and you sent me the other operations and maintenance, or Dr. Daniel did. Yeah, on the revenue side.
Hopefully they don't know we put in LEDs.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of like SOQ funding. I mean, it's a token amount for maintenance and utilities. I mean, part of that then goes to our phones and internet costs and things along those lines that we still have. So, I mean, it's fractional of what the actual electric bill would cost, or heating bills and things along those lines would cost.
Well, but the reason I asked is I think we're paying the electric bill, aren't we? Or the utilities, we're paying.
Right, but
so-
again, they're broad categories too. So
Right.
when you say utilities, it's like utilities from the state definition isn't just what you're gonna say is
Right.
water and electric or fuel.
Okay.
So utilities is also some of the other infrastructure pieces that, we need to.
Right, so if you could send that, yes, ma'am.
No, finish up.
Oh,
what
that's
you were
okay.
saying.
Just the last thing I had is if you could send me that with the other information, I'd appreciate it. But when I go back and look at your state revenue for FY '25, the school estimated 5.972196, and you indicate in the information we received that you actually received 6.2232, or 6.6232,814, for a difference of $260,618. In FY '26, you estimated 5.805677, you're projected at 6.018238 for a.
No, sure. So are you looking at what I sent Ms. Wilson?
Now, I'm looking
Last night,
I looked off of the,
I just want
Presentation.
everybody, I just want to have the same
off of-
slide in the same screen that we're talking about.
I'm not looking off of this, I looked at it last night, it was off one of the presentations, because I didn't have this one.
Okay.
So if my numbers are incorrect, please
So I
correct me,
think,
I don't want to say the
so
wrong
there was
number.
a memo that I sent Ms. Wilson based on some of the
No,
email
I didn't,
exchange.
I haven't seen that.
Okay,
I just
so-
used this off
What are
of,
we referencing, just so I.
Right, that's what we were trying to kind of,
hold on, I can
I
find
don't
it.
think we have access to it.
If somebody else wants to go, I'll find it and then
Well, I
get
just
back.
have a question. Did I hear you say that the county's paying the electric bill?
Yes, ma'am.
But my understanding of that was, once that study was done of the usage, wasn't, from that study, it was decided that the county would pick up the electricity for all of the county buildings? Do I remember that correctly last, when we had that? we had
part of what I
this-
remember from it is if we're, the investments, capital investments to
Yes.
improve kind of energy consumption,
Yes.
that's kind of the recouping the benefits works better, right?
But, and that's when the decision was made, for
It's
the
part of the
county to pay
maintenance
it.
merger
Before
and
that,
part of the
that was
discussion.
not so. Am I correct in that? Okay.
I mean, I think so.
So that was a decision the county chose to do based on the energy, just basically saving money because of the energy consumption.
I don't know if it was based on the energy audit or the energy study. I think it had to do, part of it, my memory, and then part of the maintenance merger, and improvements to
Yes.
energy
Yes.
systems within our schools.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so-
Okay, I just wanted to
But
clarify.
Mr. Doss, I would say
that
in
hasn't always
terms-
been the case.
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to clarify that, okay.
In terms of projected versus actual, one of the things that's not, the difference in what we projected and actual received, we have to factor into that state revenue when we get grants or other incentive programs. So that's especially pronounced, I think, in '24 and '25 from all-in tutoring and then also one-time safety and equipment grants. So the all-in tutoring was, I think, about $265,000. I think that started in FY '24. So we're gonna have to put that into our overall revenue category. So that's gonna, when we pass the budget in April or whatever of that year, that all-in tutoring money didn't come until, actually, I think they dropped it in June, and we had to get the county to then reappropriate it into the next year. It was super weird, the timing of it.
So that wasn't in,
That's not basic aid.
no,
That's
I'm not looking at basic aid. So
Okay.
if, the reason I found what I looked at here, so
Okay.
this is the,
Is this part of the stuff that I gave you all,
Yeah,
2
March-
weeks ago?
yeah,
It's like the 3 pages.
yes, so but then I went to your all's first budget meeting, and you had the your draft proposed budget, and that's where I got my figures for the FY '26 of $6,018,000, and then FY '25, 6.2. So my only point to asking that is, if for 2 years, because if you had a grant, and the grants, I completely understand that doesn't mean you get cash, things like that.
Right.
But they're still counted in the dollar amount, and then they're also in the expenses, so it's a wash. So if you get 300,000 in revenue from a grant, then under your expenditures, you should have 300,000, so it's a wash.
No, some of them are, like, say, for instance, some of them are, you have to have a match. So the security grant, we may get $100,000, but it's a 25% match to it. So we're not getting the full revenue for it. We have to provide the match for it.
Correct, but that would still be under the expense side.
Correct.
Okay. So the reason I ask is, then this is the reason for the question, is if FY '25, and it may be a grant, it shows a $260,000 addition. FY '26, it shows a possible $212,000. I'm just wondering, is it gonna be like that in FY '27? That's why I'm asking. So when I go to look at what was estimated, what was actual, and it comes up with a $260,000.
And also you have where the General Assembly can make a change also, so you also have
Mid-year.
that mid-year, and, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into, you know, it could go up or you go down, just like right now, we're still basing our budget based on what, Governor Youngkin had proposed, because we don't have the General Assembly has not finalized their budget yet. So that could change the numbers come whenever they sign off on the budget, so it could either go up, it could go down, we don't know yet.
It could in your current budget year and your next year's proposed
Correct,
budget.
fiscal year 26 and fiscal year
Correct.
27.
But when I'm looking at the actuals of what was estimated and what was actually received for a year that's already passed, that's
But I
why I'm
think
just
too, if you go
asking.
back and look at FY '23, I think we were down, like, we were short several $100,000 in FY '23 on state revenue. So I think '24 and '25, we were able to, there were some funds that got pushed in from the state, or some grants that we were able to bring in to help us do some things. But the flip part of that is, you know, I think in FY '23, I think we were down several $100,000 based on what we projected from a too high ADM count. So,
Thank you, I'm done.
sure, I mean,
Thank you.
it's just hard for us to know, like safety grant money, that application isn't until August 1st. We don't get notified of the awards until mid-November.
But don't you do an amended budget? If you get additional revenue that comes in, you don't do an amended budget?
We will start doing amended
Okay.
budget.
I was gonna say, yeah, like we haven't in the past,
Yes,
so.
we will start doing amended
What's,
budget
the reason I
for,
say that is it can cause, if you don't do it, it can cause exactly what I'm asking about now. So that's my point.
And I think that's part of the confusion too, where at times we've given, like we've talked, this is what the projected budget was, and then at other times I'm like, this is what the actual budget. So then that's part of the memo that I sent yesterday, or the email, like, hey, this is what was projected, this is what was actual, so keep in mind that we're doing a little apples and oranges comparison in these numbers. But I knew you had wanted to, that kind of question had been formulating for a while.
I have a comment or something for us to think about, and we're happen to be on the right slide, that I have questions about textbooks, and I've talked some to Ms. Hunley and Dr. Daniel about this. I know we have some upcoming textbook purchases that are required, and that we've got some, we were given some money for that, but is there any wiggle room? Is there any of that that is not required? And I'm wondering, for anything that's not required, do those teachers want them, and will they use them?
So I think there are a couple pieces to that. So I think we can, the state, there's gonna be an approved state textbook list. And so our teachers will go through along with community inputs, and we'll kind of vet those approved textbook options and make a recommendation. So the pricing for those is different from manufacturer to publisher. So there are some that, I mean, we can strongly encourage the more cost-minded textbook, that approved textbook, and hopefully the cheaper, because the cheaper version is what everybody likes and is better than the more expensive version. We can also, I know Ms. Hunley does a great job of negotiating add-ons such as the teacher editions and some of the consumable kinds of things. We can look at some of those consumable pieces. Usually those are packaged items. Kind of if you think back to when you had to get your kids' school pictures, you know, you had this option or this package or
Okay,
this
so,
package or this
yeah,
package.
so you could choose the,
So, right, so
out of what's,
we can determine kind of which package to
Okay.
some degree that we want, and we can negotiate a bit. But again, we're not Fairfax, we're not Virginia Beach, we're not Henrico. So our leverage with publishers is going to be minimal. We may have some leverage with our participation in CIP if we end up adopting the same textbook as the rest of CIP. But going back to the other point of whether teachers want it and will use it, that's going to be a cultural shift much like we've seen with our Virginia Literacy Act and the literacy textbook adoption. We're required, and for the VLA, we're required by law that our teachers will be using HQIM, high-quality instructional materials. So whether our teachers are going to be required to use the adopted materials once we adopt them, once we have the training, and we've adopted those materials. So I think the day of you close your door and that's your kingdom, that's going to move away a bit, especially as we're bringing in teachers who aren't graduating from formal education settings and don't have the curriculum writing background or those sorts of things. So the state is moving to a much more regimented process for direct instruction and high quality instructional materials that we're not going to be able to stray particularly far from. So I would push back on whether they want the textbook or why are we wasting money on textbooks and the teachers don't want them and they're not going to use them. Our teachers are going to have to use them, whether they want them or not, that's going to be a different piece, but use them is going to be a bit non-negotiable.
I get that, and I knew a lot of that, but I guess what I'm asking is, and maybe I wasn't clear, because we already had that, but it's good for everybody in the room to hear that,
sure.
Because I didn't know till I had the discussion with you. But I'm just wondering, are there any, maybe there's certain high school classes where the state hasn't said, you must have this, I'm thinking, because.
Yeah, and I think too, do we go with a classroom set or do we go with every kid gets a book? Do we, kind of like the Chromebooks, are we sending a textbook home with every kid in their backpack every day, walking from a central bus stop, a quarter of a mile down the road in the rain and snow and whatever, uphill.
Both ways.
In the marsh, uphill. So again, I think there's some wiggle room, but textbooks are crazy expensive. Like those adoptions are crazy expensive. We have math, we also have science. And then very soon on the heels of that, we're gonna have social studies. So what we're negotiating or what we're talking about is 3-year deals versus 7-year deals because of the timeline with the state and their curriculum adoption used to be pretty consistent on a 7-year cycle. The state is far behind, so by the time we get all the HQIM approved materials, there's only going to be probably 3 years left in that curriculum cycle, and the state will start it all over again. So I honestly, I worry about cutting the textbook line item to jeopardize us being able to provide tangible resources to teachers who we're asking to teach mathematics.
Yeah, and
science down the road too.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that
Maybe I'm not picking up what you're putting down.
yeah, and maybe I'm not doing a job of conveying it, but, and I know that's required. I do want to give teachers great materials, and some of those extra materials that maybe are our option to purchase or we don't have to purchase can be great things to help support our teachers that are now teaching 2 and 3 things. So I don't want to take any of that away from teachers. But I guess what I'm asking is if there's any classes, any courses that we offer where the state has not said, you must pick from this list of things, because historically what I've seen happen is, or maybe somebody goes somewhere and one of my friends goes somewhere and they don't have a textbook and she buys the $280 package of biology materials for the whole year and does great with that. And she prints off what she needs, whenever. So are there any classes where something like that is an option and that teacher wants an option like that would maybe cost us less?
We can take a look. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, this doesn't cover, if we're not teaching Calc BC, but if we're, this this act or this textbook adoption doesn't cover that very specific science class or that very specific math class, et cetera. So
Yeah.
we can take a look.
Yeah,
at
because I'd love to see the details of which textbooks are, what grade levels and subjects are the textbook number is paying for, and,
Okay.
yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah.
For the purpose of this discussion, just to inform everyone, this will be an item that we are exploring tomorrow in our work session, but so we need to get some more details on it. It does impact budget, and I just would throw out the concept of vertical alignment as well. So these are things that we'll be talking about, but we are very aware of this high dollar line item here with textbooks. And we're looking into all angles of it.
Dr. Daniel?
On the CTE position that you want to keep, I assume that person is coming from the middle school, so you're going to absorb them at the high school?
So it's a current
I mean, I'll put the new position.
Right, so
Person.
the position, a CTE teacher is going into kind of a more technology
Right,
support
gotcha.
role. And so what we want to do is then replace that position at the middle school. And so if that position in the middle school is kind of the feeder program to start.
But you don't have a middle school next year.
Well, grade 6 and 7, sorry. So some of the upper grades, so we'd still want to offer some CTE classes to those 6th graders and 7th graders and possibly 5th graders to then start building some of the skills
Okay.
or some of the prerequisites.
It'll be an elective at that.
Yeah, and it may, that position currently is split between the 6th and 7th grade and then some of the lower end high school, like 8th and 9th grade classes at the high school.
Tonight's probably not the night, tonight's not the night to go into this, my question, but I would like to have a discussion, presentation from the school board about student achievement. And I know you had one, but as supervisors,
You
we
go
talk.
to it's in board docs, and you guys probably have it now, but you
Right.
can take a look at the bottom
Su-
slides.
Supervisors constantly talk about, and I'm one of them, about how we need to have a strong school system to have a growing economy in Matthews County. And one of the standards of achievement I keep hearing about is being able to read by 3rd grade. So what I'd like to hear from you, again, not tonight, but what are the achievement metrics that you think are most important? How are we progressing at the different grade levels and those achievement levels? What's the plan going forward? And is there an opportunity or maybe a need for something like Khan Academy or some other resource like that? And it's maybe too simplistic, but about a year ago, 60 Minutes, and you all can Google this, but I was very impressed with the 60 Minutes presentation on Khan Academy. And they went into a school system, as I recall, that had never used it before. And I would just like you to address that. Are there other opportunities out there? And I'm not suggesting every student go to Khan Academy, but there may be or some other type of academy. There may be something like that. And I can't get enough information from watching 60 Minutes to know.
Right.
So I'd like to hear it from you.
Okay. I mean, just in short, that's where I was talking about high-quality instructional materials. HQIM is kind of the acronym the state uses. So a lot of what's happening is a lot of the resources that we are able to access for our kids need to be state-approved prior to us implementing them, especially historically right now, it's been in language arts and reading for the last 2 years, and that's coming in mathematics. So we're restricted in terms of what we can kind of deploy within our school division for, it has to be evidence-based and research-based and things along that. So there's an approved list that the state provides. So if you remember a couple of years ago, we were talking IXL and then I think frequently teachers talk about teachers pay teachers to kind of access lesson plans and resources. We just have to, before we deploy money, we have to make sure that those resources are on that state-approved list. But I can go through the achievement stuff, and I know it's been a priority for the board to discussed at every school board meeting, some measure of achievement, student achievement, monitoring student achievement each month. So we kind of rotate a little bit, kind of what we're talking about in various assessments and when they've come out and things like that, so.
I would just encourage all the school board, all the board of supervisors members and school board too, to look at, Google the 60-minute Khan, K-A-H-N, Khan Academy.
Say that again.
Khan, K-A-H-N, Khan Academy. It-
It's been around for.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
a while.
it's been around.
The first time it was shown, it was probably 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, but this was
It's expanded.
This was is on 60 Minutes, and as I recall, it's about a year ago, but this was an experience that a school system recently had. And I was just impressed by how well it was received. It was received with some resistance at the school level, but then it seemed to be very successful. And I'm not saying this is a solution for everybody, but if we're having difficulty with science and math teachers, maybe that may be something we could turn to. I don't know.
I think that's
It
an
does use
online thing,
Chromebooks, though.
isn't
I'm
it?
sorry.
Online thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Just look at it, see what you think.
And I think some technology use is good, but I feel like I started being a teacher when some kids were just starting to get smartphones, and those became, before they had smartphones, actually. They had flip phones, that's what I meant to say, flip phones, and those were kind of a distraction. And then as we when we took away the cell phone use during school, when kids were using smartphones, we were the first ones to do that. I feel like a lot of times we've replaced them looking at these with these in class too much. And so I learn a lot of great things online by doing different online things. But I think sometimes with the younger children in particular, you've got to have that relationship with an actual person that's in the classroom and put pencil to paper. And so, but I think, for some of our upper grade levels, that might be a good option, and it, I think, allows us to extend our course offerings when we do some things online that we can't offer in person. But that's something to consider.
The thing that impressed me, that I recall from the program, is the insight the teacher received on each student as to how they work their way, say,
Is it like IXL, kind of?
No.
I think there's some diagnostic, there's
Okay.
a little bit of diagnostics
And
that come.
Just a little bit of IXL was a good thing.
Just look at
You
it.
know.
Take 30 minutes. Take 30 minutes to look at the video.
Okay.
My mother was a teacher, my wife's a teacher, my daughter works in the school system. I never have, so I don't have that experience. But I just think we have to sometimes think outside the box. I just encourage everyone here, we're the deciders. Let's look outside the box and just see if maybe there's a solution or something there we can use.
So, Mr. Bowen, just to be clear, are you asking for another joint meeting so we can present
No.
information to you about,
I think the school board can decide how to address that. Now, I would like to hear a discussion about it. It can be at your regular meeting, but
What does a parent have to pay for their child to go to school anymore other than tax? When I went to school, my parents bought my textbooks. They don't pay anything.
There's no textbook rental
Okay.
anymore. I think.
I
it's
paid
not
for my meals. When I took chemistry, I had a lab fee.
Yeah, there are some
So-
student fees.
What are the
Depending on
fees?
what class you're enrolled in, there's some, music, there's some nominal fees. It's
Yeah, if you
listed
take
in our.
band, you gotta buy an instrument.
Right.
Or rent an instrument.
Instrument
Yeah.
rental and stuff like that. The school board approves those fees every May,
yes.
somewhere in that timeline. So there's a list of those.
But textbooks, nothing?
Yeah,
There's not a textbook fee.
If
no.
I can just give some context, when I first started on the school board, there was similar to what you talked about. They didn't pay for the books, but they
Yeah.
did pay more in fees, parents did.
Right.
But the law says free public education. And we had a school board member that was very much an advocate for reducing those fees. And so over time, it has been reduced significantly. And so it is just for those well, first of all, if someone couldn't afford to pay the fee
Sure.
for band, we need to make sure parents know that, so it's not just,
Right.
middle to upper class students taking those courses. But it has changed over the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years,
I
just to give you
disagree
context.
with that premise of a free education, because every one of us in here pays taxes.
I understand,
It's
I'm
not
not
free.
here to argue that point, I just want to give you kind of where we've
Beyond
been
the
and where we
purview
are
of this
now.
meeting.
Right, right. That decision maker is not in this room.
Right.
That decision making, thank you.
Right.
That advocate is not in this room. Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Daniel.
So just to kind of transition a little bit, so I know there's quite a bit of conversation about maintenance and maintenance budgets. So what I wanted to highlight a little bit is what then in FY '27 then remains, because so we still have a maintenance and operations budget. So what remains in that? Because I think there's still from this FY '26 and maintenance and how much maintenance and operations money kind of went to the county versus how much stayed in the schools. So in terms of what is projected at this point for our FY '27 maintenance and operations, so the roughly 600,000 is for our custodial contract, and so the custodians were always in our maintenance and operations. Communications, so our telephone system, our Nextiva contract, that remains in there. Property insurance, grounds, so we still, we have to provide supplements for our portion of maintaining athletic fields. So we usually do that with coaches and supplements and stipends to kind of line and cut the outfield, cut the football field, et cetera, et cetera. County covers, basically the rule of thumb, county covers outside the fence, we're trying to cover inside the fence. Within the budget right now is the match for the school resource officer, and then a placeholder for a security grant match. So in years past, we haven't had, we apply for the safety and security grant annually from the state, but we never budgeted for the match. So then it became a scramble, well, can we even then use, how do we use this money, or how can we figure out and squeeze this line item or that line item? So like what's in the FY '27, that's currently what is making up what we still hold in that maintenance and operations for FY '27.
I will say just for the board, that school resource officer is already in the current draft of the budget. We have that budget in the sheriff's budget, so.
So we can go ahead and take that out. Okay,
There you go.
sweet.
None.
Making progress tonight.
Only 200.
Right. $500,000 to go. Okay, so I think then this next slide kind of gets to where that, so again, what we've talked about is level funding that 9.1 minus now school resource officer grant. So beyond then, that 9.1, what else then are we gonna have to look at? And I intended to be vague in talking about this, because last year we went into specifics with numbers, and I don't want to send panic within the community about this program and that program and all the things, but I think there's also has to be a recognition of, okay, so if we're moving back to, something less than 9.1, what are we gonna start looking at? So, like, we're gonna look at reducing that whatever percent pay increase is, understand that if we go below, then that 2%, that impacts the little bit of money that we're gonna get from the state for that, any sort of pay increase.
Does that just mean that you have to match the 2% for the SOQs? Right? Is that what that matches?
So
To get
we
the
have to
state
we have to certify that we gave 2% to 65 of our employees.
Right, okay.
Right, so then the other 90, and for us too, it's difficult to determine, like, our SOQ position, say for second grade, I have 3 teachers who teach second grade, but SOQ may be 2.4. So which one of you is the 0.4 teacher? So that's part of that calculation. They don't do it in whole numbers, so it's based on your class, your numbers of students in that grade. So for example, like, we're required by state code to have a secondary reading specialist. But because of our numbers, we get .05 funding for a secondary reading specialist that we're required by law to have.
Could you get the amount that it would be for the schools for that 2% for all the like not the .4, but a whole position? Can you get what that 2% would be?
Could you mind me speaking to Mike?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I asked if
It was over here.
if Dr. Daniel and Ms. Hunley could get what 2% would be for the schools to pay for all the SOQ positions, the 65.
Just SOQ.
That's where I want to clarify. So you're saying schools, because they're SOQ positions that aren't based in schools, that in order to access the state money, we have to certify that this percent is given to all SOQ positions. So that's going to include some directors and some administrative positions too.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I don't want to send mixed messages, and I want to try to answer your questions to then get to the goal, but I think,
The goal
some of
is
the
to
time
get all
the-
the state money.
right, I mean, I think we can tell you how to capture all the state money. The hurdle is then, you get 2%, you get 0, and randomly assigning who the SOQ person is, because that's nowhere is it delineated which of the teachers
Boy, would
are
that
an
make
SOQ
teachers
position
mad.
and you're a locally funded position.
Yep,
It's-
it made me
all
mad.
that stuff is sort of morphed together. So that may be an assumption somewhere that I wanted to try to clarify. So we get a pot of money based on teaching or instructional positions, and there's a formula the state uses, but nowhere in their metric or in our metric does it say, this is you're the SOQ person, you're the locally funded person, you're the whatever. Does that make sense?
It does. Does that mean, expanding that, so does that mean the 60 SOQ positions need the 2%, or the 2% comes into a fund and can that be distributed across the 140, 150?
So in order for us, what we have to do is there's an annual report that we have to certify for accreditation and for funding purposes. So I have to, and Dr. Gibbs also has to sign off on it, that for us to receive that money, we've given whatever the requirement is to all of our SOQ positions. So we have to,
Even though they're not assigned?
even though they're not assigned, right. So we've given it, and honestly, what every school division does is, because every school division employs more than SOQ levels. And so they take whatever they get for the SOQ position, and they know they're gonna have to provide the raise to everybody else.
Okay.
And the General Assembly says, hey, we gave teachers 2%. We're doing the things, we're giving teachers 2%. But they're giving us, in reality, about 25% of what it costs to give my teachers 2%.
So just a quick question in between, sorry, it just hit me looking at this. On your
What is this? Sorry.
two slides that you have for budget highlights first draft, budget highlights second draft.
Okay,
Just want to make sure I'm seeing the differences. So the difference that I'm seeing is a reduction in the raise from a
Right.
2+1 and a 6+1 to a 1+1 and a 6+1.
actually, the 6+1 should just be 6, because,
Should be 5+1.
should be 5, because
Okay.
Dr. Daniel got carried away.
That's fine, that's okay. You removed the CTE replacement of that. Am I correct in that?
I think
No,
that's
Is it still there?
I think we talked about that in the,
CTs.
CTE is still in there for right now.
Change the person.
They were gonna fill it with
That
that.
was
The athletic trainer got removed, the raise was reduced,
Okay, the
and
athletic,
then there are numerous line items, cutting back, scaling back, percentage.
all right, thank you. I
Speakers,
just
that
wanted to
kind of
make
general.
sure I got it right.
Okay, so to talk a little bit about, like, additional ways, what we're gonna have to look at then do we pass on more costs, health insurance costs onto employees? Do we look at, removing that vacant CTE position and not filling that position? We've already talked about the SRO costs. So right now, Mr. Royals is planning to retire. So that position becomes vacant. That's an important position, like I would say Clyde is a unicorn. I don't know that I would say that to his face, but Clyde does like a great, he knows the county, he knows the roads, he knows buses, he knows his employees. His employees value his leadership and will work for Clyde. Replacing Clyde is going to be difficult on any task. But one of the things that we've, again, trying to find scenarios is, do I then take some of that bus, do we reassign some of Clyde's responsibilities to existing staff members to manage transportation? So breaking off the garage part from the student transportation piece and, developing some of that differently. Looking at contract lengths, I think we spent a lot of time last year talking about the difference between some of our employees are 10 months, some of them are 11 months, some of them are 12 months. So we have some staff positions who we can look at going from 12 months to 11 months, 11 months to 10 months. That equates to pay cuts for those individuals. So we could look at that. Knocking out any sort of budget for furniture replacement. Canceling summer school. We're not required to offer summer school. So part of this gets into what are we required by law to have and to offer in terms of compliance and accreditation. So what we get in terms of reimbursement for summer school doesn't cover the cost for what we put out in summer school in terms of transportation and instructional hours and the things and food service and all that stuff. Does it help our kids? Yeah, but we start talking people and programs is kind of where it comes down to. Removing stipends we're looking at participation rates for clubs, activities, other things. So if we're not meeting a certain level of participation, how much are we paying for coaching stipends, transportation for games or competitions, et cetera, et cetera? Do we continue with some of those types of programs? Again, going back through line items, the phrase that kind of runs through my head, I think from last year, was sharpen your pencils. So I'm going through and just scrutinizing every existing line items. Then we start getting into positions that are currently filled and eliminating those positions. So that means people and rifting and not renewing contracts, figuring out ways to reassign responsibilities, and letting people go. And so part of that has kind of happened as we've reorganized the elementary school and the middle school, but looking at other departments and other ways that reassigning responsibilities and letting folks go. I've not applied titles, names, categories, departments on that. Again, not interested in creating panic, but.
Coming back to the reduction in the contract lengths, 12 to 11, 11 to 10. So how would that impact our academics? Because are we going to be asking them to do the same thing for less money and less time? Or what are they going to be doing less? That's going to impact our student learning and the culture of the school, because those who have worked in the school division, a lot goes on in summertime to prepare for the first day of school in the school year.
So, I mean, there will be an impact if we have to go that route.
Right.
An impact in terms of what amount of things are able to get accomplished during those summer months, what services we're able to offer. I think there's a decline, there will be a decline in responsiveness depending on, I don't want to get into, well, if I cut this person from 11 to 10, this is then the impact, this is the void that's gonna leave, because that's gonna provide some sort of indication to that person, like, hey, we're scrutinizing your position. So for me to provide enough detail as to the impact, I think it then draws a line back to a particular person or a position.
That was unfair for me to ask it, but I just want to make the point that I don't think it's fair to ask people to do the same amount of work, but also getting what goes on in the summer impacts the school year and how smooth it is, how disruptive it is. how smoothly textbook, all kinds of things.
right.
And so, I think we need to think about, if that happens, we need to think about what we're gonna say, don't do.
Right. Fair enough.
I just have one comment about this slide.
Okay.
That
What slide are you talking about?
This one that you have up
Okay.
here, ways to reduce the budget. These are the decisions that you as a school board,
Absolutely.
this board doesn't have anything to do with what you do or
Right.
how you do it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I'm not, except it affects our county, and they get calls if we have a misstep or a perceived misstep. Then the calls come to you, and like, why did you do that? So I understand they're internal decisions, but I think it's fair that everybody understands consequentially what might happen if there's a reduced budget. So we're not blindly moving forward, because you guys get the calls too. You guys got them last year, and it affects the whole community.
Have you put dollar values against those bullet points?
We've got tentative dollar values about, okay, this is roughly this. If we've got to look at this 12-month going to an 11-month, that's about what it would cost. Like, the other piece is, like, we anticipate every year there's gonna be some number, somebody's gonna move, somebody's gonna decide at the last minute to retire. And then we look at, not filling that position. Okay, can we adapt? Can we do something different, with a vacant position? And we've continued to do that over the years. That's the bulk of how we've reduced 43 positions. It's like, okay, we'll do this, that, and the other. But I can't plan for that right now, because we do an intent. 100% of our staff members have indicated they want to come back next year. So that's great. That's awesome. I think that's a testament to, like, improved climate and culture, and like, hey, we want to be in Matthews, we kind of like what's happening. But like,
Life happens.
I might need a retirement or two,
Right.
in terms of kind of trying to meet budget things. I'd much rather not fill a position than tell somebody, I'm sorry, I don't have a position for you next year.
Is there a furniture replacement policy? Is there a life cycle replacement? After 7 years, we consider this
No.
unserviceable, or
It's
is
when
it,
it's broken.
it's fly to failure?
It's like, we've welded it, we've bolted it, we've super glued it, we've sent it to the carpentry, we've painted it enough times. A husband has come in and tried to make particle board into something. I mean,
Yep.
I think Mr. Doss is like, I could, if Mr. Tillage wasn't looking at his phone, I would ask him to testify about the stuff that we cleared out of this campus this summer when we were doing the abatement, and it was just trash.
Just for background, I went to VMI. I lived in rooms that had early 1900s and graduated in 1990 for
I think I
furniture.
had desks from Eisenhower's
Yeah,
administration. I mean, it was like.
I mean, you can still learn in that type of
I mean,
environment.
yeah, well, I don't,
Did they take pride in that because it had been there since the
Oh, yeah.
1900s? Okay.
Absolutely.
Chesty Puller sat in this
That's right.
desk. Sorry.
I want to start to say, I agree with Ms. Wilson, that we need to stay in our
Right.
lane, and you need to stay in your lane, and don't take this other than what I mean it to mean. And we talked about this a little bit the other day. There's not a website you can go to and look at a county result. My concern is tax raises without service raises usually winds up in a reduction of a county. It's anecdotal, but that's what my fear is. When we were talking the other day, you made a statement that stuck with me. I went and checked, and I have to say, I agree with you, is that the perception lags reality.
I was a little worried because sometimes some things jump out, and so I wasn't sure
If you
what
go
comments.
like slide 33, it just stands out to me. So your math pass rates 5 years ago were, according to this, about 40. You're up to, what, 72, 73?
Is this, I'm sorry, is this the slide we're talking about?
No,
or-
keep going.
Math pass.
One more, there you go.
That one, okay.
So all students, see that green bar, you're at like 40. 5 year later, you're at about, what, 72, 73? But I think I agree with what you said the other day, and I don't know how to get that out to the public, is I think the perception is 40.
Mhm.
Does it make any sense to make a big deal about this and challenge the school? If we hit 75, let's have a community field day. I don't, you know, again, this is not my job.
Yeah, I mean, we can, I mean, I think there are ways to, I think there are always ways for us to improve our celebration, communication, like how are we, like pushing out what's the medium for pushing out our successes and the good things happening in the school division. I think part of that is like a lot of school divisions who do that well either have a person or they have a contract with a firm who like automates all that stuff for them. Like I will tell you, like West Point contracts with a firm for a fee that does their media stuff, like the graphics, all the things. Or like when I'm in regional meetings, like I'm like, oh, well, who did that? Oh, one of my comms people did that. And so like, it's sort of one of those, I don't wanna cry poverty, but it's just in terms of bandwidth, like I would love to have more time to improve our website and our web presence, and we've traded off a little bit who's managing the division Facebook social media account right now. It's on that Miss Hunley, who's doing the bulk of that task. So it's like we wear a lot of hats, and I know that I charge the schools with trying to find somebody in your building who's going to be your school web person, your school social media person, and trying to do a lot of that stuff. So it's a lot of these things where we're trying to improve in this and trying to improve the curb appeal and the like make sure the pipes aren't leaking from the ceiling and it just, again, I sound whiny, so I'm gonna stop. But there is a way for us to improve that. I haven't
Do you have any room to use citizen action groups or anything like that? Can you get some, I mean, we have some talented retired people in this
I mean,
county.
I think there's probably a venue from that. So if there's somebody out who is great at marketing
I have a
and
couple
would,
I'm thinking of.
so
Contact you.
our email is now on the website. So Mr. Anthony was able and Caleb was able to get all of our email addresses. So reach out. That's right. I mean, I think there's a place for that. And so we contracted with a firm to redo the logo and the branding, but that was grant money from the Women's Giving Circle.
And that's good, but unfortunately, that doesn't get this message out.
Right.
That this isn't the school 5 years ago.
It's not.
Well, and the fact that we're improving looks good, but the other question is, how do we rank with our peer groups around us? Middlesex, Gloucester, Northumberland, Essex, I mean, where are we?
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends on the indicator and the thing. I mean, I think in
I know.
terms of,
But if I were moving here, or if I were
Right.
looking to move, where would I
Right.
want my child to go?
right. So
I
I think
wanna
from
look at those.
where we were, I think we're,
And what is this?
so schooldigger.com is a website. It aggregates state testing data for states. And so you can go into Virginia and you can look at the top elementary schools in Virginia, the top middle schools, the top high schools, the top school divisions, and it'll rank, it kind of ranks school divisions. And so it's,
total? Sorry.
so there are about 131 school divisions in Virginia right now.
Oh, okay.
So point of reference, so according to this website and their metric, their algorithm, so we've gone from 76 to 51st.
Yeah, some of these websites that rank.
Right, niche.com is one of those things, and
That
so,
they put a lot of weight on.
reviews and
Reviews, and of course, the only people who review are unhappy.
are angry. Yeah, US News and World Report has a metric, they look at that. Theirs tends to weight a lot with AP courses. So if you don't offer a lot of AP courses, and then, like, again, previous division where I worked, we spent more time and emphasis on dual enrollment versus AP, so that's, again, so it depends a little bit on the metric, on their rating scales and stuff like that.
I think there's a lot of merit in what Patrick just said. Janice has been saying it since she's been on the board. Other supervisors have as well. I'll just say this briefly. I was at a group of a dinner party Monday night. 21 people were there. They broke it into three groups, and the discussion was, what brought you to Matthews County? Why do you want to stay here? What kind of advertising message, if you were to develop an advertisement, could you develop to bring people here? And I was just amazed and dumbfounded at the end of an hour, hour and a half, what each group reported and said. It's just amazing. And we had commercial artists, we had people from, Patrick's right, we have a wealth of people. We have to, as the two boards, we have to do more to enable that. And Sunday, I had a citizen call me, and for about an hour, she talked about the need to have some coordination done. And I think all we really have to do at our level is to help facilitate these different groups to get together. I mean, we have the Women's Giving Group, we have the Foundation, we have Habitat, Hands Across Matthews. We just have so many different groups. We have so many churches that are doing things. And I think if you could combine the efforts, where you find some synergies between maybe a church and this group over here, and we could facilitate that the group would expand, it would get bigger, and they'd do more and more. And I think there's probably a lot of citizens out here who would love to take this on, of how can we brag about our school system and get the message out. So I just think we as two different boards have to, I know you're focused on school academics, right, and we're focused, but we really are missing something here, I think.
Okay, to bring this back around, as far as where does the Board of Supervisors, are they, as far as what do you anticipate that we can build our budget going forward on what county contribution from the Board of Supervisors?
Because realistically, we've got to approve a budget in March to give to you all. And so, I mean, I don't know that if you're ready to show your hand or kind of where things stand.
So I have the draft budget that the supervisors all have a copy of. And it is based on a school contribution to the schools at 8.5 million. And it's down to where I have it for taxes is it's essentially the only tax increase will be for the CIP. So anything over that 8.5 million will be a tax increase. Unless we can further reduce, but
And
I've cut this, sorry.
CIP is 2.5 cents, or is it 2 cents?
2 cents right now.
2
2 cents in the first year, and then a half cent
Okay.
later. But yeah, I have cut positions to make the budget balance.
And each penny on the real estate is what, 220,000?
210, 6,
210.
a little bit better, not much.
Not much, you're right.
I can't help you this year, but I do know an insurance guy, not me, that might be able to help you with your healthcare issues. I don't know who you're contracted with, but that possibly could be
the same as the county. I mean, I think we use
Something
the
going
same.
forward.
I know we're different. You use VACO, don't you? And we
We
use
use,
VRS.
yeah, for our property and stuff, and just in terms of vendor for benefits.
Oh, yeah, ours was 11.3 as our increase with Anthem.
Ms. Diggs?
You know, I was delighted to hear that say a few moments ago. Oh, dear. Delighted to hear you say a few moments ago that everybody in the school system, 100% were ready to come back for next year. And with the budget as it is and is not, if we put the increases down for our teachers, et cetera, our staff, and we pile on more of the healthcare cost, because we know it escalates, I wonder how that response would be. You know, that would grieve all of us.
I believe, Dr. Daniel, if I'm not mistaken, you have a slide somewhere what it would take to get to the 8.5 million?
Yeah, I
Oh,
kind
you
of,
do not?
I think
Okay.
we had talked about that internally, but I
Okay,
didn't, I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
want to
My mistake. Beg your
put that,
pardon.
because I think that then generates a level of panic that or concern, that I don't want to use hyperbole, but I think that fuels concern.
Understand,
I think I
yeah.
got copied on an email response about, well, I heard you're cutting this program, I heard this program is getting the axe, et cetera, so, it, like, I don't want to set that in motion if we don't need to.
One other thing, I just, we are giving 2% across the board, is what I have in the budget. So I don't think it would be fair for the schools to say 0. I think if they were to say 2%, and then everybody's fair, but that's just my 2 cents.
Okay.
Mrs.
Yeah,
Hodges?
I think if,
We're doing the 2% primarily because that's what the state,
Yes,
yeah, Sandell fund.
yes.
That's pretty much what the state's doing.
to follow up on what Ms. Diggs said, we have seen progress in academics, in student achievement, retention, 76% to 50% ratings. I just worry, my greatest concern is, can we continue that movement forward with what the proposal is, the 8.5? And I fear we're not going to be able to do that. I know you've got your decisions to make, and I appreciate that. But I worry that this will not be able to continue. I mean, I think everybody will do their best to support that, but I think there will be some consequences in student achievement with less staff, adding on staff, less 12-month to 11-month, 11-month to 10-month. There will be a consequence to our student achievement. Thank you.
The thing that bothers me, or I think about, and we're not talking about it, is, I'm concerned about like under $3,000 from the state per student. That bothers me because it says, well, does it make sense to try to get more students? So that's a concern. But,
That's due to our local composite index not being.
yeah, I know that. But, the declining enrollment and the continued forecast of a declining enrollment makes me say we've got to really think outside the box. We've already thought to close one school, maybe a little too late. Should have maybe done it sooner, but that's hindsight. So what are we gonna do if we're continuing to see that? I mean, we thought we had leveled out, or we were hoping we would level
Yeah,
out,
I mean,
but we're not using those numbers. I mean, we're still showing a 10 of the.
well, this year's based on 725, and we're also projecting 725 ADM for next year too. So we're, in terms of our projection, in terms for
Okay, so you're
ADM,
showing leveling out.
Right, I'm fingers crossed that, keeping the same, budgeted ADM will continue to work for us.
Yeah.
Because I think we're still gonna stay above this unless something crazy happens. I mean, we've ticked down a little bit over the course of this year, but it's not, like, there hasn't been a huge drop off. I'm not seeing the number of kids, families, like mid-year pulling for homeschool. Like, we're gonna get families moving out usually around Christmas time. Somebody's moving at the end of the calendar year. We typically get a couple folks moving in. But we haven't had the rush of what I would say is homeschool avoidance for attendance, discipline, things along those lines. We still have we've had a couple during the year, but those weren't, ones who we were chasing for attendance. Those are like, other reasons for those families to select homeschool.
I think the uncertainty of having to downsize, and how long you continue to downsize is very hard for all of us. And if we can feel like we can keep what we've got, at least maybe we're the way we need to be, and that's okay. I'd love to see it grow. I know we have excess capacity in most places. So that's my concern, is just get those head counts up somewhat.
Yeah.
And then the way you do that is have great schools.
Right, and programs and things that interest kids and are gonna draw families to come and be a part of those things.
Go ahead.
I'm hopeful that this year and maybe next year is going to be a positive transition with Matthews County in the General Assembly. I am hoping and expecting the General Assembly to improve an increase in the sales tax for the state, which would include Matthews County, from 1 cent to 2 cents. They've said that 1 penny is going to be committed just to school construction, which doesn't do a whole lot for us. But in this CIP budget that we're talking about are some school expenses. And one of the bills in the legislature is that if this goes through, that you can not only use this money for future school construction, you can use it to pay debt service on old school construction. That would have some impact on our real estate taxes. Right now, if we're talking about a bond, which we haven't decided the amount, but that's all coming out of the real estate taxes. If part of that bond includes school construction, and the legislation allows the sales tax to be applied to debt service on past construction, that would have some lowering of the real estate taxes. And this LCI, we all know the LCI is out of whack. The JLARC committee has shown that. It's going to be really hard to change that, but just for an example, Loudoun County has a lower LCI than Matthews County. They're getting, I forgot the figure, but multiple billions with a B of dollars from data centers. And none of that is included in the LCI. There was some legislation to have that income from data centers to go to the states and maybe help offset the school system. But things are just getting more out of whack in that regard. And I'm hoping that we will begin to see some adjustment. And the way they've tried to adjust this in the past is, rather than changing the LCI, they come up with additional supplements. And they'll give you a supplement for this or supplement for that. And these small school divisions, like in rural communities like Matthews, are going to have to be more vocal in the General Assembly and You know, maybe we can get legislation that says this 1% sales tax, which is right now committed all for school construction. Maybe in certain counties like Matthews, where we don't have the revenue, maybe a percentage of that can go to operating costs. I don't know, these are things we're gonna have to fight for and try to get, but the LCI only takes into account 10% of your sales tax. And in Matthews County, we don't have a whole lot of sales tax, so 10% doesn't amount to a whole lot. But when you go to Loudoun County and Gloucester and York County and Williamsburg, they're not accounting for 90% of their sales tax, which is a huge amount of money coming into the localities. And so we have to begin to point out these differences, and I'm hopeful, it won't happen overnight, but I'm hopeful in the next couple of years, we can see a shift, but it's not gonna happen unless we get out and fight for it.
Well, may I ask on that point, because that's been on my heart a lot lately, the LCI. Oh. Sorry, thank you. That point has been on my mind a lot lately with the LCI. What do you suggest, any of you suggest, that we, as sitting boards, can do to improve this sooner rather than later?
Well, I think it's totally unfair. 50% of the LCI is real estate tax, is property assessed values, which seems reasonable because localities can place a tax assessment on real estate values. But 40% of it is based upon adjusted gross income of our residents. And we can't tax the adjusted gross income of a resident. So my thought, and I think Dr. Daniel can help us a lot on this, my thought was to develop a spreadsheet, and it's already online, of the LCI for different communities. But let's try to find some metrics that we think might be helpful. For example, let's look at the, to me, the LCI should be based on the total revenues that a locality gets. What is the total amount of revenue that a locality gets, and what is their expenses? And do a metric there. But let's just look at the sales tax. Let's look at the total sales tax that each community has. What % of their school system would be paid from that sales tax? That's not gonna, and then do a comparison and see where we rate in that. Are we in the bottom 10% of localities that can, pay, for Matthews County, is it gonna be 10% of our school system can be paid by sales tax, whereas Williamsburg, it can be 50% of their school systems paid by sales tax? To me, that's a very important figure, and that's what it's gonna take, I think, to point out to the General Assembly that this system is, I think, 40 or 50 years old. And back then, the state was much more of a rural community economy. And, we're having all kinds of, just look at the data centers that are coming in, and that's not even counted for. I sort of take a beef at New Kent County putting up their speed radar, I don't want to call it a trap, but their radar on 64, they're getting, that goes to their locality, but my tax dollars help to pay for 64.
Me too.
And none of that money is coming to our county. Certain counties are benefiting from their geographic location, and we're being disenfranchised because of our geographic location. And the thing about the LCI, it's a big chunk of money, and everybody gets a part of it. If more money comes to Matthews County, that means someone else gets less. And who's going to get less are the urban areas, because they're benefiting from, like I say, their sales tax, their their tax on equipment, business equipment and things, it's just skyrocketed as a percentage of their income over the last 40 and 50 years, and the LCI doesn't take into account any of those changes. Matter of fact, it doesn't even count that at all. So we have to find ways to point out the discrepancies and see, and the JLARC studies behind it helps us. And the legislature knows there's this problem. But if nothing else, we're going to have to say, you maybe not be able to fix the entire state with make the change of LCI, but here in Matthews County, we are being tremendously disenfranchised, and you're going to have to at least do something for us.
Yes.
And that's what I'm talking about, us having to put this together and maybe we have enough time between now and the next General Assembly session to try to get something together. Nothing's gonna happen this year at all, of course, but we're gonna have to take this on ourselves and do it, because no one else is gonna do it for us.
Tom, this is where one of the citizen groups could help
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think they would lobby as well for us, and maybe go with other rural counties that are in the same boat. A lobby group.
Yeah, I mean, I think is there, I mean, so we've got another work session scheduled for next
Third,
week,
next Tuesday.
next Tuesday. So I guess I'm trying to think through.
Well, I was gonna add, if everybody doesn't mind, I think that, you know, you've alluded that it's gonna affect academics. It may or may not, I don't know, but if it does, I think, at least I think we all want to have the best school system here. But if it's gonna affect academics, I'd like to see how that's gonna affect academics. So,
I
at
think
least for me.
Part of the challenge in doing that is then, like, if I'm cutting positions, then I'm having to then announce this position is now on the chopping block. And that's gonna be the ripple effect of either that direct service with kids or, I mean, we're gonna, like, part of that decision-making is, like, I think we're going to avoid cutting something that's directly one-to-one with kids or directly impacting with kids. And so is there administrative things that we can reassign and redo and fill and some of those
So it's
reporting
easy-
responsibilities, but then.
So you just prefer us to give you a dollar amount and that's it?
I mean, it's gonna be, I think,
He's not
kind of
gonna
to
say
go to
yes.
Miss Wilson's. Yeah, Miss Hunley is much more direct than I am, but I think also too, it's like, we're gonna have to make those judgment calls and those decisions. You all are stuck with having to make a decision about tax rates and the impact on, you know, all those pieces. I think me telling you what you need to be doing for, you know, the county administration and I don't know, that's not my expertise. That's not what I do. And so I think,
So,
it's tempting, but I think we need to avoid, you know.
Ms. Gibbs, before you wrap it up, I think you're getting ready to do that. You said you did 193,000 meals, right?
Mm.
You said 43% of the kids were eligible for free meals?
It's slightly different. Okay, so 43% of our kids are direct certified.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so because of that number, so their families would be considered low-income families
Right.
in Matthews. So that number drives our eligibility within CEP.
Okay.
CEP then has different reimbursement rates for direct certified students and kind of full-price students. So the 43% is more of an indicator of, let me phrase it to you this way. The number one predictor across any kind of research in student achievement, the number one predictor for how a student is going to do in school is parent income.
is what?
Of course.
Parent
Yeah,
income.
Parent income, sure.
It's parent income. And so it costs, relatively speaking, it costs more to educate poor kids. So that's an indication of the families that we're serving as a school division in terms of this is,
I think you're
that
getting
coupled
ahead of
with,
it. Let me just finish my thought.
Okay,
193,000, I multiplied that by 0.57, those are not low-income people. I multiplied that by 75 cents, that's $82,507.50. This cost me $1 at Food Lion. If you charge 75 cents a meal to those that can afford it, you've got 82,500, you've got like 2.5, maybe 3 teachers' aides. I know it's, and you,
right. I think there's dealing with federal reimbursements and foods and
That's the part you
criteria,
gotta
right?
figure out, right.
There's all of that stuff, so. And we've had conversations about our meal rates and costs and, some of those things in terms
I'll
of,
get
there's a
back-
slide in there about ways to generate revenue. We didn't talk about it, but there's some other things that, I mean, we're gonna look at rental fees for facilities and groups using, you know, like auditorium and other kinds, so like, yeah, so
So
that's part of that conversation.
can I make a suggestion about next Tuesday, the 3rd? That's like a week from now. It seems very quick. We also have a budget workshop on the 12th. Would it be unreasonable for you to go back with the information we got from this and bring something to that workshop on the 12th? I just think it's a really quick
In
turn.
terms of that something, like here's what we're thinking a line item budget would look like for,
like the furniture replacement costs, I'd like to see what if you're not gonna replace furniture, is that what you're going at?
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
information that we've asked for that you're gonna get.
I mean, I think we can start clawing away at some other things to move from 9.1 to 8.5 and what that looks like.
So my hearing say another
12th.
joint meeting, is that what I'm hearing?
We could, well,
that-
it's not a joint meeting right now, but we could make it a joint meeting.
I mean, we can see what we can pull together by Tuesday and see what that looks like. I mean, I can throw that out, but Ms. Huntley's gonna do the bulk of the work, so. We'll talk through.
They have a work session.
I mean, I've already had to take off 3 days for new training.
The 3rd is a work session, joint work
Joint work
session. We're
session.
still having that.
I will not be here, but,
Oh, Ms. Wilson will not be
so-
here.
but Ashley can.
That's our next joint, which is the 3rd.
Yes,
Next
a
Tuesday.
week from tonight.
6 p.m.
And I won't be here the 12th.
You won't be here the 12th. Okay,
Maybe they have something like.
What time
think
is
we need to
their
have the
work
3rd.
session on the 12th? Is that
see where we go from
during
there.
the workday?
Keep to the
No,
3rd.
it's in the evening.
Okay, all right, I could,
Oh, no, it isn't. What time is that meeting on the 12th? It's 1 o'clock, isn't it? It's at 1 o'clock.
hey, because I've already had to take off 3 days from where I
We'll
work
have to come
for-
back to that issue, and we'll keep our 3rd scheduled as planned. Everybody's in attendance.
Yeah,
Except Mrs.
Ashley will be
Wilson.
here, so.
Great. Okay, perfect. Mr. Morgan?
Before we close, I just have a couple of comments. Some of you have already heard me say these things before, but no one likes tax increases. I certainly don't. And I can certainly appreciate the position that your Board of Supervisors is in. You know, we've got to have money. Where do we get it? We don't want to raise taxes. I understand that, and I wouldn't want to be in your seat at this time. That being said, when we're talking about schools, it's always, it always has been, how can we reduce the cost of operating our schools? Can we cut this? Can we cut that? Can we cut the other? Reduce the cost. I understand. Any organization, any agency should operate as efficiently as possible. I believe that. But it seems that in Matthews, we're pretty limited to real estate tax. That is our main revenue, is it not? Am I incorrect in saying that? That's our main source. And we, not only do we not want to increase that, I think it would be detrimental in some ways if we do. Mr. Beatty pointed out recently at a meeting that he felt like it may force people, or force some people to move, to leave the county. He could very well be right, I don't know. But I say all that to say that maybe we should be looking as board members, both boards, looking at ways, brainstorming ways, how can we raise some more money? Because I think we all know that we can only cut school budgets or any other budget so much, and that's a limit where you just can't cut anymore. So personally, I feel like we should start brainstorming about how can we increase revenue? What can we do? How can we generate new sources of revenue? And I know in years past, and we can't change the past, there have been businesses that would like to have come into Matthews, and they were turned down either by, I don't know if it was Planning Commission, Zoning, Board of Supervisors, I don't know who, but it didn't materialize. Those businesses went to neighboring counties, and they're doing very, very well. Now, I'm not suggesting that we need factories and smokestacks, but there are some quiet businesses that could function, do business in Matthews, and help generate some revenue.
It would be nice.
Yeah, it would be very nice. And listen, I'm not pointing fingers at any of you folks tonight. No, not one of you. Please don't misunderstand me there.
No.
But,
Didn't take
you
it
know,
that way at all.
we reach a point where we've cut. What do we do? Close up and go home?
Wow.
I mean, seriously.
I
So,
agree.
just my thoughts, just my thoughts.
When do you all have to adopt your budget?
So we adjusted the timeline this year. So typically, we would have adopted the budget in February, sent it to you guys. We then, like, gnash teeth and do all the things in March. I guess you guys adopt in April. So the goal was to have more conversation through joint leadership and through joint work sessions, that when we adopt in March, that then is kind of like, we're done. And then you know what the number is, it's kind of like settled, so then when you go to adopt in April, then you're done. Because what we then, in years past, after you guys adopted in April, we would have to go back and change our February adopted, and then there's a race to try to then get contracts out and
So
whatever.
what date is that in March?
March 17th.
March 17th. And our next meeting is the 12th?
19th.
No, not the regular meeting, our next budget workshop?
Oh, the 12th, yes.
Okay. Instead of meeting on the 3rd for a joint, because we haven't met a second time as a board yet, so I think it might behoove us to meet on the 12th and then have our joint, if it's possible, between the 12th and the 19th.
Our meeting's on the 17th.
Or 17th.
The 3rd?
The 3rd is a joint meeting with the
It
school
was
board.
a joint meeting, next Tuesday.
Why should we do that if we haven't already met as a board and talked with?
That's what you
That's
said.
what he's saying.
But
That's
do
what
it
I
on the 3rd, because we were scheduled for a meeting on the 3rd anyway.
That was a joint meeting, though.
That's a joint
I
meeting.
know that. I'm just saying, instead of making it joint, make it.
Oh, you mean, for us to meet on the 3rd?
Yes.
Well, we can't, but Ramona's not gonna be here,
Okay.
so. Do you see what I'm trying to get at? If we could meet once before our next joint
So
meeting.
that the next
with
one
them.
be more productive.
Yes.
You're feeling that the third
Yes.
one not be.
Yes.
So are you saying if we have our workshop on the 12th, and then they adopt on the 17th, have something right after the 12th? A
Yes,
joint- a joint
it would
meeting?
have to be. When do you come back? I know you're,
The 6th.
okay, so we could actually meet anytime after the 6th, and maybe even meet with them before that. I'm just thinking it might behoove us if we as a board met first before we do another joint meeting. So do we want to cancel the 3rd meeting? Joint, what are y'all's thoughts?
I was thinking the same thing you were. When are we gonna know more on the 3rd that we don't know today?
Well, I agree, so that's,
Unless we just, I think we have to have discussion.
We can definitely.
I think we at least need to kind of talk through it. I think the school board needs to, as we're trying to get closer to that 8.5, then I think my board needs to have an understanding of what that's gonna look like and what our proposals and how they line up. Because again, five folks with different perspectives and
Right.
trying to coalesce onto a
So-
plan.
You're going to meet on the 3rd, but it won't be a joint meeting, is that what you're,
that
what I'm
I mean,
hearing?
that's,
It's a work session.
I mean, it'll be a
Yeah,
work
okay.
session
It's a
for
work
us.
session.
I just don't see any benefit for us to meet on the 3rd. What do you, that's just my
Okay.
No,
opinion.
it makes sense, yeah.
I think I know everything. I don't know
Sorry?
what we're gonna get.
Yeah.
But
Is-
then on the 12th, so they're meeting on the 3rd, and
Do you
you
wanna
want to
try to-
meet before the 12th.
Yeah, if possible.
Okay, so we need to schedule another workshop in there, and then the March 12th will be a
When is
joint
that?
meeting?
When is that?
That would be great if you're gonna be
That's
here
what
for
we
that.
You coming back on the 6th or before?
On the 6th.
We haven't seen the budget with all the changes from the.
Could we discuss
I
having a
mean,
leadership meeting
haven't
date? It is.
That's what I'm saying, that's why I think we need to
Yeah, I
have a
have-
workshop
We
ourselves
get to that
before we have our next joint
after your
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah, and I haven't got everybody's changes yet.
Yeah.
So-
What would be a potential for that date?
Yep,
You're not gonna have any further
So you're
information
like on the
next
10th
Tuesday
or
than you
something?
have today.
So you're saying, they're saying they're gonna meet on the 10th?
Probably not, at least. I don't think we will.
So do you, well, we're gonna ad hoc one right now.
We have one scheduled for the 10th already, right?
no, the 12th.
Did we have one scheduled for the
Oh,
10th? I didn't have it
Oh,
on my
leadership,
schedule
yeah.
yet. I didn't have it on my
I think
schedule.
that's
Would that
when
be
it would
after your
normally
meeting?
fall,
On the
but I-
10th?
We were thinking of having it on the 10th.
You're thinking of having it on the 10th. So the leadership meeting, could we have it on the 11th?
I know.
11th?
Okay, so
Check schedule. Mr. Morgan, 11th? At what time?
I don't know.
They want to move the leadership meeting from
What
10.
time?
Yes, as far as I know, it should be fine. yeah.
Okay.
It'll be an evening, right?
No,
We're talking about just the joint
leadership,
leadership.
joint leadership.
Oh, joint
Oh.
leadership, I got you.
And that would be timing on that?
Just to me.
Well,
Should we do
you have it set for,
yeah, 1 is what we were,
Okay,
because he's better in the
it's
afternoon.
better after 12.
okay. So we're looking at a 1 o'clock start time,
Does 1 o'clock work for you, Ben?
And this is leadership.
leadership only.
We have a agenda meeting at 10, right?
How's your 1 to 3?
Paper.
I'm just saying, we have agenda back to back.
Yeah, yep.
So is this
Okay.
So the
canceling
10th,
the
on
3rd?
Tuesday, the 10th, can we do it during the day?
Let's
Yeah,
talk
we
about
can
that
do
in
it
just
during
one
the day.
second.
Well, I'm sorry.
Probably canceling a joint,
Oh, never mind. Just-
but I'm not sure if we will.
There's still work to do. Yeah, the afternoon's fine. I mean, I forget.
Yeah,
You gotta remind me, it will finally sink.
okay, probably do need to adjourn, but I do have another comment to make.
Yeah, that's fine, it's in the morning.
I know, but I,
I went on the list.
Yeah, it's in the morning.
I'm used to it now, so.
Members,
It just comes, well.
all
it just
members,
comes-
what I'd like to do right now is to finish any comments that we have that are germane to the topic at hand. We'll adjourn, and then we'll clarify calendars after that.
Okay.
So are there any other comments pertaining to the budget situation? I wanted to say, Mr. Walsh, you don't know me well, so I was not going to close the meeting, but I did have a comment.
Oh, I thought you were
Yes.
part of
I just wanted to remind the citizens and all board members that there are 5 board members on the side who do vote to approve a budget. So if we are backing into a number, we may or may not be able to, with integrity, approve that budget. It's going to be, we need a series of conversations, we need more information going across, but this board is made up of 5 individuals who, as Dr. Daniel just said, see things through different lenses, and they can vote yes or no. Our job is to ensure the integrity of the school system to help our students achieve. And if we have gone past the point of allowing that to happen, or if that is at risk to too great of an extent, individual members will make the decisions that they make on that when posed with that vote. So it is not, we're not one body, we're 5 different people voting. So I just wanted to say that for the record, for the county to know. We're facing some serious discussions here. And this was a very productive meeting, I would like to say, and thank you so much for your participation and collaboration, and I look forward to ongoing collaboration with you. Decisions are not made yet, and we're all working hard to make the best decisions we can for this county. I think we would all agree to that. Are there any last second comments? Mr. Bowen? All right, there being none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.